Good evening. The Lawrence Alliance for Education Board meeting for October 9th will now come to order. The time is 6:04. Maria, would you please take attendance?
Dr. Dolores Calaf.
Present.
Edgar de Leon.
Present.
Arlene Garcia. Juana Matias. Maria Muller. Mayor Brian de Peña.
Present.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Present. Would we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of the nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we take our seats, would you remain standing for a moment? I think this may be appropriate to bow our heads and say a prayer for the people in Florida and the the disasters that they're facing. Thank you. This evening, there are no items for executive session, so we'll move on to public participation. The board welcomes public comment at this time. We will call people in the order they signed up. As you begin, please state your name and address for the record. Each person is permitted to speak for no more than 2 minutes. A bell will ring when you have 30 seconds remaining, and again at the end of 2 minutes. I ask that you please respect this limit. Profanity will not be tolerated. If used, we will turn off the microphone and the person will be asked to leave the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone that during public comments, the board is in listening mode, and as such, board members do not respond to comments. Written public comments may be emailed to lae@lawrence.k12.ma.us no later than 2 o'clock in the afternoon of our meeting. The first person for public participation is Mr. Marley.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Good evening, honorable members. We, the citizens, are proud to have the best superintendent in the history of Lawrence, leading Lawrence Public School. From the first day of his arrival has been positive changes. We demand the best compensation for our teachers, paraprofessional employees, and cafeteria workers. We must know building multi-million-dollar school does not make Lawrence Public School great. Lawrence Public School is great because of our excellent teacher, hard-working paraprofessional employees, and cafeteria workers. Lawrence Public School, one of the best public schools in the nation because of our excellent teachers. The genius Horace Mann said, education indeed the most important social equalizer. This great recognition only possible if we support our teachers' union. In this great nation, number one responsibility of every citizen is support of teachers' union. The triumphant progress of our city and this great nation depend on how well we, the citizen, support our teachers' union. We must work hard to improve parental and community involvement to offer the best partner in education of our children. Lawrence always strong. Lawrence always unite. We are the best example of support of the teachers' union in the nation. Lawrence teachers, you are number one. Thank you for excellent job.
Thank you, Mr. Marley. That concludes public participation for this evening. I'd like to continue with the chair's report. As part of my report this evening, I am very happy to introduce you to Carla Almonte, our student representative for this school year. I would like to share Carla's bio and hope you were as impressed as I was with the qualities she brings to the board. Carla, welcome, and we are anxious to have your input on many of the items involving the students of Lawrence Public Schools. Now, I'd like to read this. I think it's very important that you hear all about Carla. Carla Monte is a senior at Lawrence High School. She is passionate about the arts, community service, and hopes to major in nursing or politics. Carla can be found at the local soup kitchen once a week and was recently elected to the governing board for National Honor Society. She was a student council president 2 years in a row and is constantly finding ways to create a positive environment for students and advocate for change. She is part of Governor Healy's Youth Council, has been a part of student government for 4 years, as well as the superintendent's cabinet. Volleyball and football management, track, yearbook club, the early college program, internship in sports management for the district, and she hopes to start the Lawrence General Hospital internship. Recognitions include having the second highest ELA MCAS score, the LPIN award, and being part of the theater group that won multiple awards at last year's Massachusetts Educational Theater Guild Festival. This summer, Carla was found attending the Yale Young Global Scholars, Upward Bound, and the Harvard Summer Program. When asked what she values about LHS, she talks about the diverse community and the authenticity everyone possesses. Carla sees LHS as a place in which she has grown to find herself and learn both real-life skills and classroom skills. Carla values student voice and the opinions of her fellow classmates. Being involved in her community has always been important to her, and she has found different ways to influence change in LPS and Lawrence as a whole. She often volunteers her time to clinics, helping host and set up events throughout the school year, and as a tutor. She has helped start up a period poverty project, sings at church, and helps in food drives 1 or 2 times a month. She uses theater to spread awareness of under-recognized problems in the Latinx community and hopes to continue to spread positivity. She looks forward to providing the LAE with her perspective on many aspects of Lawrence High and Lawrence Public Schools to help create positive change for her community. And welcome to the LAE. Is there anything you, I'm sorry, Superintendent, go ahead.
Shirley, I spoke to Carla before she starts. Even though you read her impressive biography, she's a little bit nervous. Carla was chosen from 3 other outstanding juniors and seniors at the high school. I had the privilege to interview all 4 of them, and I can tell you, Madam Chair, that I was extremely impressed with all of our high school candidates that applied to serve on the LAE board. But as you read Carla's bibliography, I don't know when she sleeps. With all the things that she's involved in, and she's a senior this year, and I participated at the college fair, and she's got a lot of work to do, but she's determined, focused, and she has a wonderful career ahead of us. And we're thankful that we have her to serve on the board, representing the student body.
Carla, is there anything you'd like to say?
I just want to say I'm more than grateful for this opportunity to be here today, and I am so excited to spread student voice and have a voice in this board in general. Thank you so much for having me and for accepting me.
Great job.
Any board members that would have something to say? Dolores?
This thing is getting. I just want to welcome you, Carla. I think it does make a difference to see someone like you that can bring, the eyes and ears at the level that you are. And you also, on your end, you also will hear and process, lots of information, but that is going to help you, to really think through about the complexity that it takes, to run a whole school system. And that we feel very proud that you're here.
The only thing I'll add is your being here is a constant reminder that this is about students, not about the adults sometimes, and we focus on that. So welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Welcome, Carla, again. So happy to have you. The next item in my report is the progress we have made toward identifying subcommittee groups, monthly meeting dates, and district representatives supporting the subcommittees. So I'm going to read the names, the district support, and the date and time of their monthly meetings. The Policy Subcommittee, Maria Mola, Edgar De Leon, and myself. The LPS representative is Chris Markins. The representative from MASC, the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, we're going to vote on their contract in a few minutes. They will meet on the first Tuesday of the month at 4:30. Budget and Finance Subcommittee, Juana Mateus, Arlene Garcia, Mayor DePena, Jason Cabrera as our district representative as the CFO. That group will meet the first Tuesday of the month at 5:30. Curriculum and Instruction, Dolores Calef, Juana Mateus, myself, and Jen Perry as a representative from LPS. They are going to meet on the first Thursday of the month at 5 o'clock. The work of each subcommittee will be very important, and to that end, subcommittee reports will become a standing agenda item each month. Maria will follow up with further information next week. This concludes my report for this month. If you think of any questions that you may have, feel free to give me a call. All right, the next item on the agenda are votes that we need to take this evening. The first one is the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. All this information you had in your packets that were sent to you on Friday. This is the group that will be supporting the Policy Subcommittee. I hope you've had a chance to check that contract. If you have any questions, we'll take them right now. Could I have a motion to approve the mass contract to support the Policy Subcommittee in the creation of the LPS Policy Manual?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? And I think maybe Superintendent, you might have something to say?
Sure, I can just add, just as clarification for the folks out in TV land and those present. The Massachusetts Association for School Committees is the state association that works with all of the municipalities that have school committees, so there's approximately 351 of them. The goal of this project is, over the course of this current school year, is to look at all of our existing policies that we've had since early in the 90s and bring them up to date. This is an important endeavor as we continue to focus on working and striving toward a pathway out of receivership, so that when we finish and complete that task, the school committee that will be taking over has a fresh set of policies that are up to date, that include every aspect of both local, state, and federal regulations that govern public schools, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? Hearing none, Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Oh, she's out there.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you. The next item that needs a vote are the minutes of our September 11th meeting of the LAE Board. Any omissions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the September 11th meeting minutes of the LAE Board?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Next, we have a request from the Office of Planning and Development for a construction easement on Amesbury Street between Haverhill and Lebanon Street. I believe Mr. Cirillo's here representing
Office of Planning and
the
Development.
Planning Board. Good evening.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for having us. Right now, we're in the process of working on a Amesbury Street project, converting Amesbury Street into a two-way, and it's going to be from Canal Street all the way to Lawrence Street. So right now, we're requesting a temporary easement on, give me 1 second, 255, what is it? On the corner of Haverhill Street and Amesbury Street by the old high school, and which is TE, temporary easement 19, and temporary easement 20, which is in the corner of Amesbury Street and Lebanon Street. And the corner of Amesbury Street and Haverhill Street is, we're looking at 282 square feet, and the other, Lebanon Street is 1,280 square feet. In order for us to do the construction to build, to change the streets.
Any questions?
Yeah, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, because we can't hear. I'm over here. I don't know if the mic is too low, but I apologize. We were trying to figure out what's going on, so.
That's okay.
Thank you.
That might be better.
Yes, thank you.
And I apologize because my voice has been in and out for most of the year.
Thank you.
So that picture is the corner of Amesbury Street and Haverhill Street. We're looking for a temporary easement, and that's temporary easement number 19, 282 square feet, and that's all for us to do, for the state to do the construction of converting the street over two-way.
Can I just interrupt you, Mr. Cirillo, a second? because you're showing one of the doors that's entrance and exit for one of our schools that's located at the North Complex, which is the old high school. I'm just going to ask Ms. Hernandez Odanis, which entrance for what particular school that is, because we have several schools there. It's not any interest, okay, for any schools coming in the morning. Thank you.
Any further
And
questions?
so, just to further that question, thank you for bringing that up, Superintendent. That means that there's no impact then on students in the morning or, yeah.
And that, thank you. TE temporary easement number 20 on corner of Amesbury Street and Lebanon Street, which is 1,280 square feet on this particular section in order for us to get on the sidewalk in order to do the construction. Same thing with the other corner.
So, Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
may, so the sidewalk is going to be used, correct?
Correct.
It will impact students in the morning with parents that park there walking to school. How long do you need that temporary easement for?
You got it?
So the temporary easement is for 5 years, though the work is not going to take the 5 years. It will take a couple of weeks. We don't know exactly how long the construction company is going to take. The easements are labeled as driveway reconstruction, T. This is driveway and sidewalk reconstruction, and the other one is sidewalk reconstruction. I don't anticipate it taking more than a month. Again, they're just going to repave the sidewalk, fix a driveway, and be out of the way. The temporary easement is for 5 years. In case any damage happens after the work is done, they'll be able to come in, fix everything, and then, again, it was one of those requirements from Mass DOT, since this is a Massachusetts Department of Transportation project. They wanted us to have the easement for 5 years, but again, the work is not going to take a month, more than a month.
Thank you.
Odanis, go ahead.
Sure. Good evening. And then we'll work closely with the city, but the impact of taking over this corner will be deliveries. That's our loading dock to the building right there. And for this year, we're using that. That's the street that leads to Lebanon Street, and that's what we're using right now for buses, drop off and pick up. On the image earlier, Mr. De Leon asked a question around the impact for student arrival and dismissal. There's no impact on the arrival, but that door we do use for the Oliver Middle School exit as an exit way for dismissal.
Odanis, excuse me, does that involve security by those doors when the kids come in? How long are they open?
The doors are not open, they're not left open, but there's no entryway in the morning. We're not using that door, at least the one on Haverhill Street, at the corner of Haverhill and Amesbury. We're not using that door as for arrival, but we do use it as an exit for dismissal for the Oliver Middle Schools that are there. So the Oliver Middle School has 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, so they use multiple points of exit for their dismissal by grade level.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
No, that's okay. And, obviously we'll work through Assistant Superintendent Acosta, but we can definitely support with having a school safety officer during the dismissal period if we needed to.
Thank you.
When is the construction or the work there scheduled to start?
So we're anticipating spring or early summer of next year.
Oh, so this isn't going to start? Okay. We thought that this was like for next Monday.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too.
We wish.
All right, so we don't have to notify our families yet of any impact. We're rushing through this. It would have been nice if it got done by November, but I can understand that.
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can breathe.
Okay, any further questions? Could I have a motion to approve the request for a construction easement
Yeah, now that
on
we know-
Amesbury Street between Haverhill and Lebanon Street?
Now we know it's in the summer. I so moved.
So move.
Thank you.
I'll
Second?
second.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Mayor Brian De Peña,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Motion passes. The
Thank you.
la-
Thank you, yes.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Have a good night.
Cirillo. The last item in your packet is to approve the request of the use of school facilities. Odanis is available to answer any of our questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board members, so what you have in front of you is a request for use of our school facilities. You have 11 different requests from community members and organizations that are requesting to use several of our school buildings. As you remember, last year we came to you a couple of times with our policy and requesting feedback or offering you the opportunity for feedback regarding our updated policy. And we're here this school year to present what our recommendations are for the 11 requests that are in front of you. For all of them, with the exception of a couple, we are presenting this to you with a favorable recommendation to move forward. There's a couple that just have a little caveat, still presenting to you with a favorable recommendation, just that you allow us the opportunity to work with the organizations on a quarterly basis, just to ensure that the facilities that they are using are still available and it's not impacting any school activities.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions?
Can I ask a quick question specifically about students in the Partham? So I'm looking at the Community Day Charter Public School, doing basketball winter season for a lot of months. Does that have any impact on Partham's ability to use basketball, after-school programming, et cetera, specifically for their students when it's time for the charter school to come in?
It does not. Our process is when we received a request from a community partner or an organization is we first have the conversation with the school leaders to ensure that the facilities are available and that it's not impacting any of our students' extracurricular activities. And then obviously it's discussed internally and then presented here. So when we checked in with the administration at the Partham School, it was not impacting.
Odanis, maybe just to, spin off of Edgar's question. Say, for instance, one of the schools is having an event, and they need that room or the gym or whatever. Is there any provision in the application that states that the school, their activities take top priority?
Yes, great question, Madam Chair. Yes, so the policy as well as the terms and conditions that every organization or community partner signs with us has that provision that Lawrence Public Schools superintendent has always, it's up to his discretion to cancel or request to move any particular event if our students need it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, could I have a motion to approve the request for use of school facilities?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Abstain.
Mayor Brian De Peña,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll turn the meeting over to the superintendent for his reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. The first order of business in terms of report that I have, I believe each one of the board members has received a copy of my draft goals for the year. As voted on at the last school board meeting, I was required to submit my draft goals. And the process is that the submission of these draft goals, and I mentioned draft is because we would be looking from you, Madam Chair, and the other members of the board to review these goals over the course of the next 4 weeks. So at the following November board meeting, we can have a discussion regarding the goals and any adjustments that you feel that need to be made, and then a vote is taken. I will say that I'm pleased to submit to you these draft goals for the school year 24-25 as agreed upon. My draft goals are thought out and framed with intentions of making sure that I not only can conform into the position of the superintendent of schools, but to provide recommendations, feedback, and observations, and expand communication to all stakeholders to the Lawrence Public Schools in the first year as the educational leader of the school district. I've outlined these goals in areas focused in 4 major goals that I've incorporated: the school and the district governance structure, thoroughly understanding the district turnaround plan and continue to address areas that require follow-up. The third one, addressing both students and staff needs. And the fourth is deepening family engagement and support services to and for the entire school district. Over the course of the last 3 months, I've engaged in many activities that allowed me to establish and build relationships with all stakeholders and many community partnerships. I've conducted a deep dive into the student data collection system and the state assessment and testing program. I brought on board a new chief financial officer and have begun the process of examining protocols and procedures, ensuring that the work within the budget and that the student support services won't be delayed. The process for engaging community stakeholders and partnerships is a continuous ongoing development, while also reaching out to all parent groups and the most deserving, Madam Chair, of our students. We've begun settling and setting the expectations and measurable goals and having preliminary discussions about strategic planning, including how we would consider using the turnaround plan as a springboard to complement the new district plan later on this spring. Upon opening the school year, I have embarked on visiting all of our schools and listening, observing, and interacting with teachers and staff. I'm extremely excited about the endless possibilities of our students created by the extremely professional and dedicated staff of Lawrence Public Schools. Our students and families return to an amazing high school campus and buildings that we should all be proud of. I look forward to your input and suggestions, and I am confident together we will be able to accomplish students, parents, staff, partnerships, and community goals that will place us on the path for success.
Thank you, Superintendent. Are there any questions from the board at this time? Or we'll wait until the November meeting and we'll have questions and vote on those goals?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I would call upon our district expert analyst on accountability. She works for Dr. Jen Perry. She's no stranger to our school district. She did a stint outside of our school district for about 16 years. But she came back to us. Please welcome Dr. Lynn Cateras.
Thank you, Superintendent. As Superintendent said, I'm thrilled to be back. I worked here for about 14 years. I left for 10, and my heart has always been in Lawrence, and so I'm excited to be back working with staff, working with the superintendent, the deputy superintendent, to figure out how we can best use data to help us move forward. This evening, I put together a presentation that I think you're probably familiar with, in that my predecessor, Kristen Sullivan, had shared with me what she had shared with you previously, and so we updated that presentation for you this evening.
Yes.
I promised the superintendent that I would not spend a ton of time, so if we can get it started, we'll move through this fairly quickly, and then if you have any questions, obviously, we can do that. So the first thing is just a reminder, at the end of September, the state releases their accountability and MCAS results. so that for public distribution. The accountability data is what the state uses to determine what level our schools or our district are in. So just as a reminder, they look at achievement, they look at growth, they look at measures of high school completion, they look at measures of chronic absenteeism, and also looking at how well are we doing with our English learners in their proficiency. So that's what I just did. We'll keep moving forward. Thank you. So keep going one more, please. Thank you. So the first thing we look at is our overall accountability percentage or percentile for each school. And one of the things that this is based on is an absolute result of how students achieved on MCAS. It accounts for about 60%. So this is compared, so our students' achievement level is compared to every other school in the Commonwealth. And then it's ranked, basically is how you get this number. And so when we look at this, we sort of can say the top school scored at the 34th percentile, so 33% of schools scored less than they did, or they were at the 34th best of the schools that were in their performance level. And so you can see our range. We went from 2%, or the second percentile, to the 34th percentile. Our median percentile, if you want to take that, the district does not get a percentile, only schools do. But if we looked at our median, it's about 11. And last year we were at about 12. The year before that we were at about 14. So we're hovering about the same in terms of our achievement. You want to hit the next one, please? This particular one just looks at how did we do over the course of the last 3 years for the individual schools. And so you can see on this chart, some schools in 22 had a better overall achievement and growth, and then we can kind of see that adjustment there. No super trend other than we saw 8 schools increased, 7 schools decreased, 3 schools remained unchanged, and that's sort of been typical from year to year. As we look at, so that's the overall achievement in our comparison, but this next section is where we talk about the growth of our students. And this is really important for us to look at if the state has set a target for us, how well have we done towards meeting that target? So if you look here, every single one of our schools and our district made either moderate or substantial progress towards our goals. So that is to be highlighted. Our district this year was 51%. So we made substantial progress towards goals across the district. Next slide. You can see in this chart, again, as we look at the schools by year to year, we're seeing a lot of green. So a lot of schools are making substantial progress. The yellow is moderate progress. At no point in the last few years have we had schools making no progress on their growth towards their goals. Next. This is a lot in one page. I'm not going to get into it deeply, but you can just sort of see by different levels, how are we doing? There is some red on this, and so that's areas that we're looking at to determine who are those subgroups that may be not making the kind of progress that we want them to make, and looking at that to determine how can we best help those students at each individual school. This chart demonstrates the state looks at both all students, and then they also each year select the lowest 25% performing students, both at the school level and at the district level. This indicates, this chart, that we are doing a really good job with our lowest 25% of students. That's the right side of the chart. It's pretty much all blue, which is exceeding targets. And again, the green is substantial progress, and yellow is moderate. So in all areas, almost every school, we are seeing huge increases with our lowest performing students. So we're closing that achievement gap, which is critical for us. As we look at our achievement, there's two ways. The state really focuses on the looking at the percent of students that score meeting or exceeding. You can go ahead. Next slide, please. So in English language arts, we do look at that comparison as well. If you look at the state results this year, our results mimic the state. And so we were down slightly in ELA in meeting and exceeding, but so was the state across the board. But if you look at the next slide, if you look at this slide incorporates partially meeting. So the way to sort of think about this is, are we decreasing the percent of students in that bottom not meeting category? And in this instance, we're seeing better results. So while we may not have increased our meeting or exceeding standards, we are seeing more students move out of the not meeting category. And for us, that's important for us to look at and to sort of think about as we're going in and working with schools. In mathematics, this was our highlight this year. We actually outperformed how the state did in terms of their increases, in terms of our math. We saw improvement both in the percent of students scoring exceeding or meeting, as well as we decreased that percent in the lowest category, which is demonstrated on this slide. The black line is the state average. In science, we remained relatively stable over the last 3 years in looking at both meeting and exceeding. And in the next slide, our overall in terms of whether we're partially meeting, or exceeding results. We did see an increase at the high school level. You can see that black line, the state also had a slight increase, but we're seeing nice gains over the last 3 years in the high school science assessment. This is just a quick chart to sort of show by school how they're doing in terms of whether they're meeting or exceeding, and those are going up. And what we saw is in ELA, 17% of our schools saw increase, but in math, we had 56% of our schools increase the meeting or exceeding, and we had 43% of our schools increase meeting or exceeding in science. The student growth percentile, really looking at how much did students grow from the previous MCAS administration. Again, you can see this goes back to we're doing a really good job of students growing from year to year to year. As we looked at that range of, we had 29% of schools in ELA that had met that target of 50. We had 44% in math. But we still had most of our schools were scoring in that typical range of growth. This is an area that we need to continually improve, and that's our progress towards attaining English proficiency. This is based on the access test. The access is given in January of every year, and it's for all students who are English learners. The state sets a target for students based on how they performed the previous year on the access test. And then they determine whether the students made enough progress to consider meeting that English language proficiency. We have seen a decline in our percent meeting English proficiency. And I know we've been working with the ML department to look at this more closely to see who those students are. We've been breaking it down and looking at kids who have been here 3 years, kids who have been here 4 years, 6+ years, where are they at, what are their targets, to see if we can help really figure some of that out. This just looks at by school so that you can see the different schools and how they're doing towards meeting. We do have some schools that are doing a really good job of meeting of students, our EL students who are meeting those proficiency targets that were set for them. Another area that the state looks at is chronic absenteeism. This is, so students, we have 180 days in a school year. So this is students who miss 18 or more days, which if you think about it, it's about 2 days a month. And that would be considered chronic absence. We've seen significant decline at grades 1 to 8, on our chronic absenteeism. We don't count pre-K or kindergarten in our absenteeism report. But it's gone. You can see by the chart, the yellow is 2022 and the blue is 2024, that there's been a significant decrease. And we met a lot of our target goals for that. High school, we're working with them. We saw a slight uptick last year, and so we need to revisit what's happening at the high school. By schools, you can look to see, again, we have some schools that made substantial, if you again look at this chart just quickly and look at yellow is 2022, how significantly much of a decline we've seen across the board to the blue. Are we still higher than we want to be? Yes. And so that is a continued work for all of our schools, but a significant move towards more students coming to school every day. Our high school performance indicators, these are, again, all of these are used towards our accountability, our 4-year graduation rate. I want to point out that they don't yet have 2024 graduation rates, so our accountability data is based on the 2023. 2022 was the year when MCAS was not required for graduation. So that is our highest rate of 82.4%. Last year, the 2023 did not require science as a graduation requirement. And so in 2024, so last year's would have all of them again. But we went back, so when there was a graduation requirement of MCAS, we are pretty consistent in that low 70s for nearly 10 years. Done a great job for the high school in terms of getting students to come back for either that 5th year or re-engage in ways, whether it's adult education, with school. We're in the mid-80s of kids coming back and not giving up if they're not graduating in 4 years. Our dropout rate is at about 3%. Just as a kind of a figure, the state is at about 2%. So we've seen a nice, decline with that dropout rate. This is something I think the high school is really proud of. And our student representative may be able to speak about this, in that we really push to have as many students as possible participate in those advanced placement classes. I know there's also some pre-honors work that they do to try to really make sure that every student has an opportunity to participate in advanced placement at the high school. And we're at about 75% of students who are participating in one or more of those classes. And I think, is that, oh, yay, that was the end. See, I told you it'd be fast, Superintendent.
Questions, Madam Chair?
Superintendent?
No, to your
Oh,
board.
yes, Carla.
I can speak on advanced placement. I started taking advanced placement my sophomore year, which hadn't been offered the year before, as far as I'm concerned. And this year, I am taking 5 APs. So I can say that APs are definitely more reinforced in the high school now. More students are willing to take it and complete their AP summer homework, which I know has helped.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any comments, questions?
I have a quick question. So in terms of the slides around the progress we're making around English language proficiency, is there sort of state markers or averages that we sort of compare Lawrence to? Because Lawrence is just a unique community when it comes to the
Yeah.
services we have to have. I was wondering if there's any.
So I looked that up because
Yeah,
I
thank
realized
you.
it wasn't on the slide.
Yeah.
So the state progress towards English proficiency for non-high school students is 44.7%. And for high school students, it's 15.8%. So I think if you go one more slide, Sue. Yeah.
Superintendent? Did you-
Yes, I did. I wanted to wait to Mr. De Leon if he had any follow-up questions. So I wanted to just make a couple of comments regarding the testing program. I know it's a lot of information, and I asked Dr. Kateris to try to simplify it as much as possible, not just for the board, but, for families that are out in TV land. It's a lot to swallow. I think the most important slide that she presented was the 2024 cumulative overall progress toward improvement targets, where almost every single one of our schools have shown progress on their attainment, and that's a lot to celebrate. That's a whole different ballgame than 10 years ago, okay? However, we spend a lot of time, and some of you know me well in terms of dealing with data. The leadership team has really gone as granular as we can. And one of the things that Dr. Kateris didn't mention to you is that when we examined the test scores a little bit more, our students did well in the multiple choice tests. On the writing part, they're able to get up to 16 points. How many points did our kids average?
Between 1 and 2.
Between 1 and 2. What that means is that we need to strategize and do a deep dive into reading for meaning. Because what happens is that our kids, when they read and they're taking a test and they encounter a vocabulary word that's new to them, as you know, Madam Chair, you lose them because you don't know what the question's being asked. So it's important that we start to work with, strategize with all of our schools to make sure we check for reading, but more importantly, that the kids are reading for meaning. The other piece of information that I think that I've been able to talk to the leadership team, which includes the principal, is we face a tough challenge in our district. And the challenge that we face is no fault of our kids, and it's no fault of our families. It's the fault of poverty. Poverty plays a very integral role in what happens in schools. And it's important because what happens when you're working with children that come from poverty, teachers are so eager for kids to learn that when they're teaching a concept, a theory, a math equation, and they're facing kids and they see kids that are cross-eyed looking up, and they can tell right away that they've lost the student. And what happens is that naturally the teacher wants the student to learn, so the teacher will assume of breaking down the vocabulary to making it a little bit easier for them to understand. And what happens is what we know in education, Madam Chair, and both of you also know that, is that it tends to water down the lesson or water down the curriculum. And what we have to help our teachers understand is that we have to maintain a standard of rigor, and we cannot let poverty be an excuse. We have to enrich the lessons, make sure that teachers understand what the different strategies are of working with children from poverty. And we'll start to see those scores go up again. Last but not least, and our teachers have already done a very good job of this, and we're going to move even further along on making teaching culturally responsive. And it sounds like a gimmick, and it's not as easy as it sounds, because you can ask someone, how do you incorporate the culture of a student and the culture of a student's home life, where they're from, into your lessons? Because when you're able to do that, kids capture, and it stays and it goes from short-term memory to long-term memory. So when recall happens, when they see it again, that they have to read and describe and write, it becomes easier for them. So we've started to have those discussions district-wide, and I'm impressed with the strategies that our building principals have put into place. But it's not going to be something that we're going to win anytime soon. That is going to be a constant challenge for us. Lawrence is not going to be a district that you're going to see them number one in the state. Lawrence will be a school district that you will see our kids gaining and passing and succeeding. But those state test scores don't indicate the work that's happening in our school buildings. And I want you to know that we're keen on that. And we accept the challenge. And I think that our families and our kids will meet that test in a very short while, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent. As Lynn will know, we've gone back many years. And I agree with you, Superintendent, but I believe also that the main part of this whole testing thing is student growth. I've always said if we could demonstrate student growth a year, 9 months, then we're succeeding because of where our kids start. So we will win. And the growth is going to show that. The test scores, the individual scores for each level don't matter as much as the student growth. So that's my spiel on it. And I have one other item, Lynn, that I'd like to ask you. This is an awful lot of information for us to absorb in one night. If we can arrange it, could we maybe have some kind of a Zoom meeting and kind of go over all these test results again when the whole board is present?
Absolutely. And if you want to, we can also include some of our local assessments that we're doing, our benchmark assessments. We can talk about that as well if that's something you would like to do. I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any further questions? Dolores?
Yes, and I'm thinking in terms of testing that is coming now on the ballot. What is our
I plead the
perspective?
fifth.
Huh?
I plead the fifth.
And I don't know, I have mixed feelings because for one end, I think, yes, we are here in the United States, but culturally speaking, I think always testing is a challenge. So is that the only way that we can show that we got it? It's always my question.
I do have a quick question. I don't know if you have this sort of detail, but I find it interesting that in 2022, the year that MCAS is not mandated for graduation rate, we actually had our highest scores, I believe. and then it goes down. I'm actually wondering if that's a trend that you saw throughout the state, because I think it's actually interesting that the 1 year that it didn't really count, you saw the best performance. And I don't know if it was a function of the test changing, if, you know, more multiple choice as a superintendent, like something about the test itself, something about what's going on. But I did notice that in 2022, it was like our best performance. It actually didn't count for us. And then moving forward, it sort of went down after that.
The state had a very slight, they were at 90.1% in
Yeah.
'22, and they dropped to 89.2% the following year.
Got it.
So it was a slight increase.
Yeah. I just found it interesting that the year that it doesn't, yeah. So, anyway.
Any further questions?
I mean, I do think that, and we've talked about it for years now, is that the support that we give our students, especially those that need support in English learning, this is something that we have to focus on as a district, but not a new problem. And I know the superintendent is going to fight for it, but it's something that's always, it's been part of it's been a struggle, it's been part of reporting every year, so. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Maria, I've forgotten you on Zoom. Do you have any questions?
I'm good. Thank you, Pat.
Okay. Moving on, Superintendent.
Yes, Madam Chair. I forgot to mention the district update, but I'll leave that for last. I just want to touch a little bit of chronic absenteeism. I know that Dr. Kataris showed a slide that we are making improvements in chronic absenteeism. And again, all schools have strategies of identifying early on kids that potentially are demonstrating high absenteeism. And we will continue to work on that. But I think what's important is that I've sent a message to our faculty and staff of the correlation between high absenteeism, being out of school, and not reaching the 95 percentile, and the effects that that has on the teaching and learning environment for kids. In fact, when there's high absenteeism from those teachers, the correlation that the state has demonstrated to us is that kids are demonstrating double digits lower scores than their counterparts with teachers that have 95%. I have started to address that, and that's addressed through the teacher evaluation rubric. I have mentioned to the staff and all teachers that we're professionals and we have a job to do. We support them and we support their health. They have a benefits package, but we have to have serious conversations about if we're going to make it happen for our kids. But that same message I have started to give to our parents. And we cannot accept that whenever kids don't feel comfortable or have a headache, that parents keep them at home. Parents need to send them to school. That's why we have a nurse in every school building. And if a child is sick enough that they can't be in school, the nurse dismisses the child. And guess what? It's not counted as an absence. So that's one strategy that we have to help our parents understand. But I'm happy to let you know that we are making strides with the chronic absenteeism of our students and parents. Our next goal this year is chronic absenteeism of our staff. Just so that you're aware, members of the board. The little birds have funny ways of flying around with information. Last but not least, Madam Chair, on the district report for September, in your packets and up on the board, obviously school opens, and you know one of the things that kids love is sports. Our sports program, both for males and females, are humming everywhere. Our females volleyball team, our varsity football team, our soccer teams are all doing great, and obviously I've missed some of them. But the opening of school is also the opening of Hispanic Heritage Month. All of our schools have engaged in celebrating the different cultures that our kids bring to the schools. And if there's one thing that they do during Hispanic Heritage Month is eat a lot. So right after Hispanic Heritage Month, we're going to do a healthy exercise month to see if we can get back on stride. And up on the top, if you see the kids there with pumpkins, that's one of our partnerships. That's the Rollins School and the Sheriff's Office from their farm that they have always comes out and gives pumpkins to our kids. Around the school in your next slide, you could see there, we kicked off our Duval's Council, Maria, graciously puts me in there and hands me the microphone, and Mr. Rodon, who can pack a house with parents, has led, along with the LPAC, in several meetings. In fact, our first LPAC meeting that we had at the library, combined with the morning session and the afternoon session, close to 200 parents, would you say, Mr. Rodon? Como 200 padres. Yes, El Pico, those 14, those count, right? Those count. So we're off to a good start. We're seeing a lot of parent engagement, a lot of parent activities. And obviously, you can see some of the smaller kids demonstrating their pride in Hispanic heritage. What's happening around at the high school, we inaugurated the Innovation Center. We partnered with Junior Achievement to give our students opportunities to learn about business and partnerships and innovative pathways. That was a huge success. We had a lot of representation from around the district and through our partnerships. I believe that you also had our Gear Up. Gear Up is an organization that's been with us now for about 14 years, and they actually have staff at the high school, and they do a phenomenal, phenomenal job at preparing our kids for, in this past month, they brought in over 100 colleges and universities. And the only thing that I wish is that we would have had an opportunity to bring parents in also. But it's done during the school day, and all of our seniors and our juniors participate. Every single student, including our most deserving students. But we have pathways and career paths, technical schools, the armed services, and a whole array of after high school graduation services for our kids, okay? And we're celebrating that the Rollins School is a Special Olympics national banner school, the first ever. We'll be celebrating that this coming in the next couple of weeks. But obviously, congratulations to Principal Maureen Bradley, the staff and the students and the parents there. They did an outstanding job. And obviously, all of you should know as we're getting ready to go into the holidays, our award-winning performing students will be presenting their first obra, their first play, musical, In the Heights, AKA Washington Heights out of New York. Tickets will be going fast, and we invite each and every one of you to please come and see the talents of our kids. As a matter of fact, Carla, you're on the crew, right? You guys ready?
We're definitely ready. We're always ready.
Okay. And last but not least, on October 19th, we'll have our first from a while ago in-person hiring fair. So that means that we'll be looking for all different positions. And I encourage our parents and constituents that we have in the city of Lawrence to come and talk to our HR individuals and see if they can work with them for pathways for coming into work with our students, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
That concludes my district update, Madam Chair, and my superintendent's report.
Any questions about the report?
Just thank you for putting it together. And thank you for all the staff that's doing the work to get our kids going, so thank you.
I was just going to say that. Thank you, Superintendent, for very comprehensive and detailed information for tonight. And I'd like to thank the board for your cooperation. And at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn with the next anticipated LAE board meeting scheduled for November 13th, 2024. Motion? Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Maria, please call the roll.
Dr. Dolores Calaf,
Yes.
Edgar de Leon,
Yes.
Maria Muller,
Yes.
Mayor Brian de Peña,
Yes.
Chair Patricia Mariano.
Yes. Thank you. We are adjourned, and good night.